Morning, everybody. Everybody's staying cool with our 100-degree weather we have. I would like to call this meeting to order at 10:30 a.m. I ask that as a courtesy to all that you ensure that you have silenced your cell phones. Also, would like to remind our directors to turn their microphones on each time they speak to help with the audio and video recordings. For the record, I'll note that the public meeting notice was properly posted as required by law, and the notice of this board meeting was provided to each of the directors. Directors Gary Bourne, Rick Huber, Helen Jimenez, Tracy LaChance, John Henry Luton, and Austin Ruiz indicated that they would not be present for this meeting. We've reached the portion of the meeting where we have set aside time to hear from you, the general public. Those interested in providing comments by filling out one of the cards available at the reception desk will be called to approach the podium to make their comments at this time. Seeing that no one wishes to speak, we will move on to the agenda. First agenda item is report and possible discussion on General Manager CEO report by David Collingsworth, General Manager and CEO. David.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are 111 days away from the average first freeze in Waco, Texas. So change is coming. On a much more serious note, I can't be so optimistic about the drought because we don't have that type of data. And you may have heard some of our staff talk about drought being the most difficult of natural disasters to plan through because you never know when it really started until you're in it, and you never know when it's going to end until Mother Nature takes over. So if those of you that are following us on YouTube and in the room and our customers, if you're concerned about the drought, we are also. And you can go to Brazos, Brazos.org, and every other week we're posting videos updating you on the drought. And there's a lot to come because there's a lot of strategy in what reservoir we're going to release water from next and how long and how much. And our water resource folks are meeting with a lot of our larger customers on a weekly basis to strategize and to make each drop of water that we release the most efficient drop of water that we can. So there's a lot of planning and expertise that goes into understanding our water supply and how we're going to manage around if the drought continues to stay with us and to burden us. So again, Brazos.org for your latest drought updates. The videos, I think that you'll find them very beneficial. We're fixing to get really busy with some board activities. Upcoming, we have our next brown bag meeting. Brown bag on the Brazos is August the 4th. If you don't tune into those, I encourage you to do that. We give a little recap on the last board meeting, and then we have some special topics. It's a 1-hour meeting, and we usually have some really good agendas and talk about water and the Brazos River Authority. We're going to have in September both a retirement meeting, a retirement committee meeting, and an admin and audit committee meeting. We'll try to schedule those on the same day as the board meeting to reduce your travel. Also in September, we're going to have a property management committee meeting. That'll be early in the month so that we can show our committee's progress that we've been making on the property master plan and then be prepared to bring some things to the board in late September. And then last but not least, many of you followed along with the email traffic last week with the major pipeline break that we had at our water plant in Taylor, East Williamson County. And I just want to publicly acknowledge and thank so many of our staff, some here in Waco, a lot of our operators that really sprung into action and showed a level of expertise that is really unique in being planned for a disaster and emergency. And they did an outstanding job of really taking something that could have taken a day or better to fix, and they got it done in hours. And at least as of this morning, there's been no boil water notices. And that's pretty significant when you understand the significance of the pipeline break that we had. And also wanted to publicly thank the City of Taylor and Jonas Special Utility District, because they worked so hard with Matt's staff and Brad's staff to get the public message out to reduce water use until we understood how severe the problem was. And then also their staff came out to assist us in fixing. So it was really a team effort, and that's what you want to see with a regional water plant when you have such an opportunity to have a disaster. And that was not the case, because we had so many great people, experts on site. So with that, yeah, thank you. And with that, Presiding Officer Flores, I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you, David. Any questions or comments for David? Director Henderson?
David, I have a quick. There we go. Will you give us a little update on the wildfire issues, and are they contained?
So the last I saw this morning of the PK fire from the Forest Service was about 85% contained, but not as much concern with growth, with the fire spreading. I think that the Forest Service felt pretty comfortable late yesterday afternoon with the fire to the west side of Lake Georgetown, that it was contained. I talked to Michael Thane last night via text, and he thought that the fire was under control also. So I think those two fires are on the downside. Unfortunately, I think over the next few weeks, August and September, we're going to see more of this. So it's just going to be real interesting. And our role in those fires is to make sure, where we have law enforcement, that we're aiding in typically closing roads or helping if there's an evacuation. We also, Don Naylor is our emergency management coordinator, and he helps local rural areas understand water supplies. And one of the things that we don't want to happen, if there's a rural fire, we don't want local fire departments going to small cities that are on groundwater and hooking their equipment up to that and sucking a bunch of water out. So we try to work with them to find a water supply, like a reservoir or something, to come take water out of. So that's really the latest and greatest on the fires that I have this morning.
Thank you. All right, moving along to agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action on Lake Limestone Tanner Gate budget amendment by Brad Brunette, Central and Lower Basin Regional Manager.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Brad.
This is an action item to increase the fiscal year 2022 budget for the Lake Limestone Tanner Gate replacement project. Y'all may recall that you approved us entering a contract with a contractor for that project back in April, I believe. And when we got under contract with the contractor, McMillan Jacobs, a couple months ago, their schedule and projected cash flows were a little bit different than what we assumed back in the spring of 2021 when we were preparing the 2022 budget. So we're wanting to amend this year's budget to increase it from $4,652,000 to $6,707,000. It's strictly a timing thing. We're trying to balance between this fiscal year and next, and so the contract with the contractor is unchanged. The project budget is unchanged. We're just wanting to move some money into this year's budget so that if we're able to move a little bit faster than what we had originally anticipated, we have the ability to do that. So that's really all I've got. I've got a resolution here for you to consider on that, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. If I can get to the resolution.
So Brad, say that again. You're just moving what was budgeted for next year to this one?
Yeah, we're increasing this year's budget by $1,055,000. So we had $4,652,000 budgeted. We're wanting to increase it to $6,707,000. And again, it's money, when we put this year's budget together, that was in April of 2021 before we even had gone out for bid. So, we go through the bid process, we got the contractor, and just the schedule and the timing of things is a little bit different than what we had assumed a year ago.
Okay. Any questions for Brad?
Originally proposed. Do you have the itemized account for that? Or?
Yes, we do. Most of the money that we're going to be spending this fiscal year is for acquisition of materials, some of the steel for the gates, mobilization costs, and then the engineering submittals. And I believe they're also talking about starting fabrication of the hoist for the new gates in August. So we've got the schedule values and the cash flow expenditures projected for the whole project from now through 2024 when we're going to be complete.
All right, Director Sanderson has a question.
And this is primarily just timing aspects?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Seeing no other questions, read the resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes and approves an amendment to the fiscal year 2022 Lake Limestone Tanner Gate Replacement and Improvement Project budget as follows. Increase the Lake Limestone Tanner Gate Replacement and Improvement Project budget by $2,055,000 from its current level of $4,652,000 to $6,707,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
A motion made by Director Henderson, a second made by
Second.
Director Crone. Please poll the board.
Director Flores,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Abstain?
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Sanderson,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 3, discussion and possible action on 2022 Clute-Richwood contract by Brad Brunette, Central and Lower Basin Regional Manager.
So yes, ma'am, this is another action item, authorization for a new 5-year agreement for our operation and maintenance agreement with the city of Clute and Richwood. Some of you may remember that the last 2 years, we brought 1-year extensions to you for that contract. Our original 20-year contract had expired a couple of years ago, and the cities had talked about going out for requests for proposals, and they were kind of delayed in doing that. So we've done 2 1-year extensions since then, but they finally have gone out for the proposal process, and so that's where we are today. Just real quick, just a picture of the plant there. You can see it's located in the city of Clute in southern Brazoria County. We've got 4 BRA employees down there that are assigned to that facility. It's a 4 million gallons per day plant, and there's also an associated reuse facility where we provide reuse water to a local industry down there. It treats wastewater for both the city of Clute and the city of Richwood. It's a cost reimbursable contract, so those cities reimburse us essentially for all of our operating expenses. The original 20-year contract again expired back on September 30th of 2020, and we've been on 2 1-year extensions since that time. But the cities actually did go out through a request for proposal process late last year for those continued O&M services beyond September 30th of this year. We submitted a proposal last fall, and the cities selected us. I would like to say that we beat out 25 other proposals, but ultimately we were the only ones that proposed. So we're still winners. We just didn't beat a bunch of people out, so to speak. We have drafted a new 5-year agreement to propose to the cities. Our original agreement, again, was 20 years, and the cities weren't comfortable with another agreement of that term. And to be honest with you, I don't know, that we think that's a good idea either. So we prepared a new 5-year agreement and sent that to the city staff here several months ago. They've essentially agreed to the terms of that agreement. And so that's what we're asking your authorization today, is to approve David to execute that agreement. Looking at our budget for that facility, next year we're looking at about $1.1 million for the total budget for our operations and maintenance. As typical with all of our other cost reimbursable operations, or almost all of them, we charge a 5% management fee for our efforts there, as well as everywhere else where we have cost reimbursable operations. So that comes out to about $56,000 for next year. So that's what I have on this one. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I've got a resolution for you to consider here too.
This inflationary environment, do we have a mechanism in the contract to increase prices or rates?
Yeah, it's essentially whatever it costs us. So if chemical costs triple next year, the customers pay that.
Okay, it's just a
whatever it
direct
costs us,
pass-through
it's a straight
on a
pass-through.
cost-plus basis?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Dr. Lattimore has a question?
That 5% management fee seems awfully slender to me. Have we evaluated it? I mean, is that a reasonable number?
It's what we've been doing on all of our cost reimbursables for some time now. The amount that we make there, that's our profit, so to speak, but there's I guess another benefit that's somewhat hidden with our overhead. So we allocate, I think, about $80-something thousand of overhead to this facility, but we haven't gone through and had a formal process to relook at that in some time, but this is consistent with what we're doing at the other cost reimbursables across the basin. With the exception of Temple and Belton, I will say that the Temple and Belton facilities, I think, are 3%, and that's because they approved a longer-term contract with us several years ago when we last redid those.
But it also, what we're allowed to charge the management fee to is different in some of the contracts. So we don't charge management fee on chemicals and electricity, so if you're trying to do the math. And what we found in years past, the private sector is somewhere around 8.5% to 13% in their fee for managing wastewater treatment plants. So that was kind of a decision that we made years ago when we were competing in that world to do larger facilities like Georgetown or Sugar Land or cities like that. So we could probably go a little bit higher, but that's about 8%, I think, is where we would start getting more competition with some of the private folks.
Thank you.
Director Fernandez has a question.
Just quick, two things, I think. The 1.1 million, is that best guess at the cost reimbursable for the next year?
Yeah, that's the budget that we presented them for next year based on our estimates, labor, chemicals, equipment, capital, everything that we're going to be doing there.
Okay, and so you said labor, so I mean, that encompasses the 4 BRA employees,
Yes, sir.
salaries, insurance, benefits, the whole 9 yards?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager/CEO to execute a new 5-year agreement with the cities of Clute and Richwood for the continued operation and maintenance of the Clute-Richwood Regional Sewerage System by the Brazos River Authority with a term beginning on October 1, 2022 and ending on September 30th, 2027.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
So
Motion
moved.
made by Director Smith, second by Director Henderson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes?
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes. Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Leslie,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Sanderson,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Our report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2022 third quarter budget report by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer. Good morning, David.
Good morning, everyone. We haven't looked at third quarter numbers or any of the quarterly numbers in some time. And the reason I'm really want to look at this number is we had some adjustments that we had to make due to the fact of the Allen's Creek. And so normally I walk through the variances on the graphical piece, but I think I want to focus in on the actual financials themselves. And focusing on two things, which is the debt itself, the $6 million, the defeasance of the debt for Allen's Creek, and then also the capital projects. Now, back in 2002, we recorded in the balance sheet land and respectively the long-term debt for the $6 million for the loans we had with Texas Water Development for our 30% portion. So when we made the payment in May 2nd and paid off the debt with Texas Water Development Board, it's really an expense to the balance, and not a balance sheet adjustment. So therefore, we are taking an expense, plenty of surplus we have in third quarter. We're still ending up with $4.6 million in surplus. So we are easily able to absorb that without any amendments that we need from the board. Now let's talk about the capital projects. Back in April, I asked for a $67 million budget amendment for that. Do we need to make an adjustment to the amendment? No, it just ends up being a variance in the basically the $11 million that's right here. Now, since the budget is a cash flow type transaction, the $6 million is offset in the 11. So your net number of $16 million is the same impact that we have through the budget. So therefore, no budget amendments, but we will have to be writing off the debt, $6 million for that. Is there any questions on that? This is just a graphic showing how we're going to spend the money. We spent the money in the third quarter. And that's all I had for the third quarter numbers. But it's important to know why the $6 million needed to be in an expense. Okay, that's all I had for that.
David? All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 5. Report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2022 third quarter investment report by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
Okay, another big adjustment here. We spent some money. $66.8 million was spent, which means we dropped down to, and we still have $96 million. We have it invested across the board, mainly in the money market because it was keeping up with the lower interest rates. Now, my friends at the Fed decided to raise rates significantly in the last 2 or 3 months. So we're at probably almost 2%. I think they're going to meet again this week and raise it over 2%. So my performance for the first time is lagging behind Treasury bills, but Treasury bills tracks to what the Fed's increases are. But over time, we will take these monies that we have and invest it, and I think we can still continue to outbeat these Treasury bills. But my word to you is, I'm not chasing rates. I'm just making sure money is securely invested and collateralized, but making sure that we don't lose any things. I'm not a rate chaser. I'm just making sure we take care of our money. Questions on that?
No questions for David? Agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on fiscal year 2023 annual operating plan budget, workshop and adoption of budget by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
Okay, you should have gotten your budget books in the last week or so. It's a great book. So, and thanks to Michelle Giroir, who's in the audience here. She did a wonderful job. I do want to talk about the fact is we concluded the customer meetings in June 23rd. We only had one question, and that dealt with coverage. Other than that, there was no comments during the meeting or after the meeting on the $88 system rate, which was great. So again, what I did in May, I'd like to walk line by line through the system rate calculation and tell you the differences between the 2 budget periods, also what I changed between May and July. So let's start off with the water supply expenditures. Again, we had a $5 million increase, mainly salaries, benefits, and lake operations that we have in that number. We did have a change between May and to July numbers of 300,000 for some salary adjustments, but I'd like to talk about that later in another slide, and go through the calculations first. The debt subject to coverage is 3.2. 2.5 of it relates to East Williamson County, the water treatment facility. It's subject to coverage. We also have a $700,000 increase in here, and it's made up of two elements. I raised the amount of debt that we need in the budget from May to July from 19 to 23 million. I also accelerated the time of issuance of that debt from the end of the fourth quarter back to the second quarter of fiscal year, making sure that we have plenty of cash flow and are able to cover expenses. That was a $700,000 expense addition. And I assumed a 5% interest rate. I'm assuming rates are going to go up next year. The next is not changed. It's just debt not subject to coverage. The difference between the two is obviously, you know, the $20 million we paid off with Texas Water Development Board on Allen's Creek. That was a $2 million adjustment there, leaving the $1.6 million, which is the loans we have with the Army Corps of Engineers for the water storage of our 8 core lakes. Next is operating projects. Operating projects are projects that are studies, assessments. They do not build out the major infrastructures. No changes there at 4.1. So rounding up is 62 million. That's a $1 million increase from what I presented to you back in May. So let's look at the revenues, non-system water revenues. The first is the non-system rate customers we have. Those are things like your 2 tiers where we have one rate for the water used, and then half of what water's not used, or lower amount for the water not used. We also have our utility contracts in that. Now here we had a $300,000 reduction in revenue, and that was related to one of the utility contracts where we found basically a revenue recognition issue that had to be corrected between May and July. So we reduced that by $300,000. Next is the other revenues. This is Sugarland waste treatment facilities. Their revenues determined by the contracts. You also have your East Williamson County, the water we sell to those customers, water permits, we have grants, and we have interest incomes. All that is in one chart that I can show you later on. Give me a total of 21 million. Now, talking about the debt coverage, the 1.3 is not only a bond covenant requirement, but it also is in our policies of 1.3. You simply take 30%, now times the 3.2, and we need 964,000 of the surplus. So how much do we need from our system rate holders? It's basically 62 minus 21, add back in the 964, we need $42 million from our system rate holders. Let's talk a little bit about the system rate contracts we have, 477. It went from 483 down to 477, and the difference there is Brazos Electric it went into bankruptcy, and the majority of that difference is they're giving back that water. Now, it is not in our FY23 budget, but we plan to sell it in FY23. So now let's go back to the calculation. You take the 42 minus divided by the 477, and it's $87. We had 85 the last time in May, a $2 an acre foot increase. So now all we need to use is 315 added back to the state rate stabilization reserve as opposed to 1.6 we had in May. It's a lot of numbers and a lot of information. Did I go too fast or any questions? Wow. Okay. So this is what we have under contract, 718,000 acre feet. We already talked about the system rate contracts, which is 65% of it. We also have utilities, and which is made up primarily of NRG, and the 2 tiers is basically Bell County and Dow. Now let's talk about the revenues. We talked about the 42 million from our system rate holders. We also talked about the 21 million, which encompasses these numbers across here that you can see where we get our revenue from out of that. We've talked about cost reimbursable. These are customers that we manage the facilities for Every dollar of cost we incur, we bill that back to the customer. This is our waste treatment plants. One that Brad talked about was Clute. We also have Temple Belton. We also have Williams County Regional Water Line that's in here. Now, there has been a change between May and July here. We've included in the 20 million, the two projects. There's two projects, the copper ion generator and basically the phase 3 pumps. Those two add up to $3.2 million that should be in that 20 million. So that's been added to this. They will be reimbursed by our customer, that 3.2 million. Also, we made an increase of 300,000 in utilities for the regional water line as well. Because of utilities increases, we're seeing higher usage of electricity, so we made that adjustment as well. This just takes a look at the rates, and we've already talked about the system rate. Agriculture rate is 70% of the system rate. Two-tier, those rates are set in December, and then and the contract requires that I bring that back to the board in January for approval. The other non-system rates are just based on the contracts themselves and does not require board approval in the contract, it says. So now let's talk about the employee compensation. And basically over the weekend, we made a decision to not go through this having a difference between 100,000 and 100, give all employees across the board a 6% increase. Now, what that represents basically is about another $100,000 in expense. And I don't know if you remember, in the rate stabilization reserves, we had 300,000 surplus in that, or we can take it out of our other reserves that we have. So it's not reflected in that first page we talked about. That was only 300, so I was moving it to 400,000. We're talking about this. No impact to the system rate. I assume that, and that was brought up by Presiding Officer Flores, and this is what we made a decision to do, to go across the board. Any discussions on that? We have 4 full-time positions added, and then the O&M expenses for the Army Corps of Engineers, we saw a decrease of $1.8 million. So let's talk about the Corps of Engineers. Their O&M expense is 4.6. And then remember, they had 1.6 million in debt services, giving you a total of $6.2 million. That's about a $13 an acre foot that's in the $88 system rate. So now it's operating expenses, 78.4. We have talked already about the 62 million that's here. Here is the cost reimbursable is 16.8. It's increased by the 300,000 we talked about, the utilities for the Williams County Regional Rural Water Line. The difference between the 20 and the 16.8 is the 3.2 million of capital projects that will be coming out of the capital project spend by the customers themselves. And later I'll show you basically by the lines of business how that zeroes out. This is just how we're going to spend the money for FY23. This is by departments. We've already kind of talked a little bit about some of the departments and the changes between the two periods. This is the operating projects. These are the studies, the assessments that do not build out to major infrastructures. Talk about the capital projects. The pie graph basically has an equal amount to the new structures, infrastructure maintenance, and new waters. It's better to see the details a little bit more. And you have your Allens Creek, which is your 20 million here that we'll be spending next year to start the permitting. Brad talked about the Tainer gates. We'll actually be starting to deliver some of the Tainer gates in the 23 period, hopefully on that. The two projects I talked about, the copper ion and basically the phase 3 pumps, phase 3 pumps down here, is the $3.2 million. So the 50.4 is really set 47 coming out of BRA's reserves. The other comes out of the customer's funding.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
What's the difference, can you explain the proposed expenditures on capital cost projects? Why is there why do you have that separated like that?
Between operating projects and,
Yeah, so you've got a capital improvement project, right? These on, the project names on the left, and you've got a total project cost, and
sure.
you've got a proposed.
yeah, this is I don't know if you remember when Brad was talking about the total project cost of the Tanner gates. That is the total cost of the Tanner gates here, of the life of the project itself. Now, what we've got here in the FY '23 is what we plan only to spend in FY '23. And actually, this kind of shows, here's the cost of the project over its life, and then here's the spends over those periods there.
For that year, is basically what you're showing. Okay, thank you.
Very good. So we are planning to spend still about $300 million over the life of the 5-year periods. I know it's busy, but it does show you some of the major projects we have out there. This helps you understand the lines of business. Again, you can see the 20, and then here's basically the 16.8, and we have the 3.2 for the capital projects, zeroing out on the cost reimbursables. The other slide on here, the other point here, here's the 23 million in borrowing, and I needed that to get those reserves up to about 26 million. I'm planning on trying to maintain about 180 days of working capital. I just need to keep 90 days, but from the bond rating companies, I feel like we need to have a strong ending reserve. So, and this is just 90 days, and this is 180. Since we'll be borrowing some money, I want to make sure they're happy with our numbers and our balance sheets. Oops. This is just basically another look. The key here is we're only going to spend 47 out of our reserves. And here's the major projects again. Now, the board does have required buckets of money that we're supposed to maintain. We've talked about the rate stabilization reserve, maintaining the rates smoothly. Contingency funds is basically just unanticipated, unbudgeted O&M expenses. Working capital, we just talked about that. That's 90 days of working capital, water supply working capital. Self-insurance is basically more based on the general liability, workman's comp, other insurances that we can't unbudgeted or unanticipated. Sure.
If, for example, this fire, we were to lose some asset around Possum Kingdom, it would come out of that contingency fund?
Yes.
Okay.
This just looks at our debt position since we're borrowing 23 million. I just want to make sure you see this is what our projected around 59 million at the end of the year. We do maintain the cost reimbursable is in our name, our debt, but the customers do make the debt service payments. Let's look at the 5-year plan. Now, basically, you know, the non-system rate customers we're consistent with what their current terms are. The audit expenses increases, this is a 5-year, increases on a historical 10-year index rolling average, and then we're assuming debt in those periods. So the numbers themselves, you can see consistently across the board here. I'm keeping about 180 days. Pretty much, you know, we're going to be having more debt service payments than we had before. This is a busy slide, but it is a balancing act that we have to go through to make sure we make coverage and meet the required bond buckets of money of funds we have. And this just summarizes, simplifies it a little bit, showing our debt service coverage. And the question that came out of the customer meeting is, why isn't this 1.3? And I don't know if you can remember, we're adding back 300,000 to the rate stabilization reserve, which would make it higher than the 1.3. Rates are in between 5 and 6%. These are the numbers I have been showing to our customers and the board for the last 2 or 3 years here. So my hope is to maintaining that rate, even with the amount of money we're trying to invest into for capital projects. Just looks at the trends, and except for this right here, my goal is to keep it nice and smooth. No hockey sticks for our customers.
Is this a slide that you share with the customers so they know the anticipated
Yes,
rate?
they saw this, and, well, they actually saw the 5-year plan with these numbers in it too. So they've seen these numbers as well, and they thank me for the fact that they can do now their 5-year plan too.
Sure.
David, go back another slide.
Okay?
Go back another slide. Right there. I think what's so, the situation that we're in as an organization is that puts us in such a wonderful position is that beginning reserve and having that money there, because David and his staff over the past years have done such an outstanding job of molding a budget to, we call it the hockey stick, where it doesn't, the rates don't do this, and create a reserve to where we can do things like Allen's Creek, and we can have cash to do Tanner Gates. And we're in a position to have to do hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects without having 15 and 20% increases in our water rates. And while we do brag about having some of the cheapest water in the state of Texas, and those rates are going to go up, we're still going to be on the cheap end for years, because his shop has done such an outstanding job of creating a reserve balance and creating a rate stabilization fund that's allowed us the ability to have a AA bond rating and really the financial power to do the projects that we have in front of us. So when you look and say, okay, what's your biggest challenges at the BRA? It's actually finding water. It's not so much how's the BRA going to pay for some of these things. We do have financial challenges, don't take me wrong, because we're going to spend a lot of money. But David and his shop have put us in an outstanding position to attack the beast.
And I'll probably this fall be coming to you, on what financing we'll be needing to do for next year, if we need it. I mean, it depends a lot how things work out, and I'm kind of excited about that part of it too. Questions? With that, I have a resolution. And I'm not used to reading resolutions, so you'll have to bear with me.
Questions for David? No, Allen's Creek is a little unpredictable regarding staffing and at what point you bring staffing in. And we're seeing a 5-year plan. So how are you projecting staff during that time? I know it's a lot of waiting game for the first 7-8 years, but how are you predicting that in this plan?
So that's a really good question. And a week or so ago, we had this room full of folks, BRA folks and Stantec folks. We basically had kind of a kickoff meeting with the entire team. And that's part of understanding exactly how the scope is going to be finalized and who's going to take on what role. So, really over the next 12 to 24 months, we'll better understand how much responsibility we want to have, how much responsibility we don't want to have, how much, we want to grow in the environmental world or the engineering world or the construction management world. So that's kind of what we're trying to get our hands around in the months to come. And, it's not, Allen's Creek is not like the Tanner Gate project. The Tanner Gate project is, okay, you need those Tanner Gates. You go design those Tanner Gates and you build those and you hang them. The Allen's Creek project, I could argue that it's 5 or 6 projects all in one. It's an earthen dam, it's a pump station, it's a release mechanism, it's an environmental project, and it's bigger than anything that we've ever done. So in the months to come, just organizing how we're going to manage both our invoicing, our transparency, our reporting, how we're going to monitor what the contractor's spending so that we're accountable for that. That's what we're trying to get and it's called, we're basically trying to stand up a program. And that'll
is
help answer that
And is
question.
that the justification of the dollar whenever you say this is Allen's Creek? Is that in there, or is that separate to what you're having to do just to get us going?
It would be separate, and from a staffing perspective, I think it would be minimal. The numbers that you're seeing, and jump in here, Brad, if I'm wrong, or Blake, the numbers that you're seeing up here are more of the starting the permit, the design of the reservoir. In the early years, there's going to be a lot of, they've got to have equipment out on site taking core samples and building some temporary roads to get in and out. So it's more of beginning the information to prop up the permit application and the amount of design that we have, more so than what BRA is looking into from a staffing perspective.
To overlook those projects, it's included in that 20 million, what she's asking?
Not yet. No, not yet.
That would be over and
That would be over and above. Yep.
All right, any other questions? All right, David, read the resolution.
Okay. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of Brazos River Authority Board that the fiscal year 2023 annual operating plan and multi-year capital improvement plan budget as presented to the board at the July 25th, 2022 meeting be approved and adopted, and be it further resolved that the general manager, CEO, is hereby authorized to make expenditures and enter into contracts for expenditures as listed in the budget. In accordance with Brazos River Authority's General Operations Practice, Policy 2.01, authority and responsibility of the Board of Directors and General Manager and Chief Executive Officer. Be it further resolved that the General Manager, CEO, is hereby authorized to make adjustments to the individual lines and items of the budget, provided that the total amount expended shall not exceed the total amount authorized for each operating division as follows. Water supply, $61,604,578. Cost reimbursables, $16,803,741. Total operating budget, $78,408,319. Water supply, $47,263,000. Cost reimbursable, $3,195,000. And total capital budget of $50,458,000. Be it further resolved that the board hereby adopts the multi-year capital improvement plan as presented in the budget. Be further resolved that the board hereby approves and adopts a rate of $88 per acre feet of the water annually for the fiscal year 2023 for both the system rate, water rate, and the interruptible water rate. Be it further resolved that the board hereby approves and adopts a rate of $61.60 per acre feet for the water annually for fiscal year 2023 for the agricultural water rate. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes and adopts a methodology for quarterly payments or monthly payments to include a multiplier to be applied to the annual payment to allow the Brazos River Authority to recover interest lost on any unpaid balance plus a service charge for administrative costs, including but not limited to the costs involving the billing, accounting, and collecting for the quarterly or monthly payments. Be it further resolved by the board that the methodology used to determine the multiplier consists of applying the current savings rate the Brazos River Authority would be earning on funds if it paid in full annually to the unpaid balance on the monthly or quarterly schedule. Determine the lost interest, and that service charge shall remain at $20 per invoice to cover additional administrative costs for billings, accounting, and collecting associated payments. The annual interest rate of 4% and a daily interest rate of 0.0109589%, that's 4% divided by 365 days, to be applied for the quarterly and monthly payments for the fiscal year 2023 shall remain the same.
The reading of the resolution, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion made by Director Savage, a second by Director Henderson. Please poll the board.
Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Taylor, Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Leslie,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Enbro,
Yes.
Director Sanderson,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on surplus personal property by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer. David.
As you know, the surplus property or personal property we have, in order for us to get rid of them, if they're defective or it's too costly to repair, or we simply don't need, we have to bring it to the board to get your approval to dispose of them. We are getting caught up, so hopefully this will be one of the last few ones here. So what I want to do is go through and talk to you about them. We have a number of vehicles in here, and just a reminder, our guideline is to use 125,000 miles or older, or 10 years or older. We do have one vehicle in here that is 2016, and it was approaching the 125,000 miles, but it has some serious mechanical problems. And so it was almost at the 125,000 miles. I decided to surplus it. It was dangerous to drive, and I felt like that it just needed to be surplus and get rid off our properties here. So I'll continue to let you look at this.
So David, while they're looking at that, explain why we go through this process.
It's a state requirement. You mean
Okay.
by that perspective? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. State statutes requires that we do this. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And once we get approval from you, we do put this on a well-advertised auction, and we have done very well on the vehicles too. They're selling very good, even the ones that have problems. If there's not any questions, I'll try to read the resolution.
All right, go for it.
I miss Steve.
There's no questions. Read the resolution.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the general manager, CEO, to dispose of the following surplus personal properties under the terms and conditions that are in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority. Be it further resolved that the board authorizes the general manager, CEO, in certain instances to continue to use and/or maintain previously authorized surplus property in a manner that is the best interest of the Brazos River Authority until the appropriate replacement property is received and placed in service. Items no longer needed or repaired, not cost efficient. Quantity 1, 1990 shop-made 28-foot triple axle gooseneck trailer, VIN number TR170526. Quantity 1, 2012 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 LS, VIN 1GCRCPE07CZ161879, mileage 154,541. Quantity 1, 2009 Ford F350, VIN 1FDWW36Y79EA32379, mileage 151,291. Quantity 1, 2001 Ford F250, VIN 3FTNF20F11MA55771, mileage 106,821. Quantity 1, 1992 Ford F350 Super Duty, VIN 2FDLF47M0NCA28212, mileage 105,807. Quantity 1, 2002 Ford 350, F350, Power Stroke Diesel, VIN 1FTSW30FT72EC96590, mileage 139,802. Quantity 1, so quantity 1, 2 in there. Should take 2016 Chevy Silverado 1500, VIN 1GCRNEC1GZ327575, mileage 118,908. Quantity 2, brush guards, various years of Ford models, F-150 to 350s, F-350s. Quantity 1, IT equipment, approximately 22 inkjet printers, HP and Canon, color white, black and white, age unknown, working conditions unknown. Lot 2, IT equipment, approximately 150 Polycom, data phones, age unknown, working conditions unknown. And Lot 3, IT equipment, approximately 45 computer monitors, mostly Dell, 24-inch, 10 sound bars, and 5 docks, age unknown, working conditions unknown. Lot 4, IT equipment, approximately 12 TVs, mostly Vizio, sizes ranges from 42-inch to 72-inch, age unknown, working conditions unknown. Lot 5, IT equipment, approximately 45 monitors, mostly Dell 24-inch, and 10 docks. Age unknown, working conditions unknown. Lot 6, IT equipment, approximately 125 keyboards, 30 laptop bags, 20 iPad cases for 10.2-inch iPads, 30 power adapters, 15 sound bars, Dell. Age unknown, working conditions unknown. Lot 7, IT equipment, approximately 30 monitors, Dell 24-inch and 17-inch, 12 keyboards, 10 docks, 30 laptop power adapters, age unknown, working conditions unknown. Lot 8, model LM-5 power seal systems, 120 volt, SN KAS3974, good working conditions when removed from service. Miscellaneous office furnitures and fixtures, approximately 106 pieces. Lot 10, commercial chain link fences, top rails, miscellaneous gates and brackets, 6 feet, approximately 3,500 feet, and 42-inch fence, approximately 500 feet. Lot 11, quantity 11, stainless steel sinks, normal wear from park use. Lot 12, 15 stainless steel toilets, normal wear from park use. Lot 13, quantity 13, model metal park tables, shop-made tables with attached seating, steel metallized, top measures 48-inch, seats are 12-inch. Lot 14, ceiling fan parts, motors, blade, globes. Fans are used and disassembled. Some parts are missing. Quantity 6 motors, 4 different styles of blades. Style 1, quantity 5, 20-inch long. Style 2, quantity 6, blades 20 inches long. Style 3, quantity 10 blades, 20 inches long. Style 4, quantity 4 blades, 17 inches long. Lot 15, quantity 6, residential interior light fixtures used, working when removed from service. Lot 16, quantity 3, residential bathroom sinks, used and in working conditions when removed. Lot 17, quantity 1, office cubicle panels, normal wear, consist of 9 sections, 36-inch tall by 15 inches wide and 2 inches thick. Lot 18, quantity 4, metal cabinets, 2-drawer, normal wear, white cabinet, measures 27 by 34-inch, 27 and 34-inch tall, 15 wide and 23 deep. Black cabinets, 27 and a half inches tall, 15 inches wide, 20 inches deep, no keys to any locks. Lot 19, quantity 6, conference room chairs, used with normal wear, leather type material.
Heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
I move to adopt as written.
A motion made by Director Henderson, a second by Director Crone. Please poll the board.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Geesing,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Leslie,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Sanderson,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item 8, discussion and possible action on proposed fiscal year 2023 strategic plan by John King, Special Projects and Strategic Initiatives Manager.
Good
Hi,
morning,
John.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Today I'll be presenting the proposed FY23 strategic plan for your consideration. I promise my resolution will not be as long as David's because I do hear the food getting set up, so we'll move right into it. This plan reflects our ongoing efforts to continue to internally improve our strategic planning processes. We've taken a look at it, and as we walk through it today, you'll notice a few changes, but overall, our 6 strategic goals remain the same. What we've attempted to do is narrow the focus on the objectives and strategies and initiatives that support that to make sure that we're focused on things that are truly strategic in nature versus those that might be operational and fit elsewhere in our operational plan or daily policies and procedures that we go by. So I'll jump in, I'll try to highlight, I won't read it verbatim, but I will try to highlight the major changes as we go through. And again, just being able to implement this gets us that much further down the road, and it's the next step in the process of improving this process. So to start with, our mission statement did not change. We did feel like adding a vision statement was appropriate, and that's to help guide the direction of our organization. And what we have, you can read it there, is to be a trusted leader in water resource quality, availability, and resiliency for current and future generations of the Brazos River Basin. That statement conveys where we would like to be at the end of our planning period. Once we're able to enact all of these things, that's the future state we want to. And you kind of have to think of it as the mission statement is the why we exist, and the vision statement is where we want to go. Also, under guiding principles, we added 2, and those are ownership and accountability. And in order for this plan to be successful, we have to embody those principles. And it goes all the way down from an individual level up to every rung in the organization. It's just that they are key to ensuring that we stay on track and move these strategies and initiatives forward. And if at any time you have any questions, feel free. We don't have to wait till the end. So to start with, as I mentioned before, our goals themselves did not change, but what you'll see here, we did make a few minor refinements to direct the objectives and strategies and initiatives to current projects. And these are the projects you're going to hear a lot about over the coming years, and they are the development part of our business, and that's Allen's Creek, the groundwater projects that we're looking at alternative strategies such as aquifer storage and recovery. So minor things there, but big budget impacts. Number 2, our goal, and this has to do with managing our water resources as a service. And again, this has really been tailored to and to take away from what we call the keeping the lights on activities. We wanted to keep it focused to the higher level things such as our system operations permit. We're in the process of going through the water management plan update on it. We've got several projects mentioned in here that have to do with our facilities. Those will certainly be on agenda items as we move forward and update you on progress therein. Stepping next to goal number 3, where we get into the protection of resources. And these strategies and initiatives are focused just on that. And that's a lot of what our environmental services group does in their proactive monitoring efforts, trying to stay ahead of the curve on the studies of different species that will help us as we try to implement the larger scale projects that we look at to make sure that we're considering the right things as we move forward. Goal number 4 has to do with our planning efforts, and it includes our engagement in the regional water plan, Our own integrated water resource plan, this strategic plan, the way we're bolstering our project management program, all of the things that we do that help us look to the future and try to be as prepared as we can be. Number 4, only minor revisions here. It mainly had to do with maintaining our communications and public relations. And we do a very good job of that, very proactive in engaging them and providing educational opportunities. Also included within that goal are the strategies and initiatives related to the transparency of our reporting. Out on our website at any given time, there's just an abundance of information that anyone can locate, and upon request, we can provide that information to them as well. And finally, and certainly in no particular order, this goal has to do with our people. That's goal 6. And arguably the most important thing we have are the people at the BRA who help us implement this plan. So we want to focus these strategies and initiatives on attracting, developing those people, and then retaining those people as we move forward. So all of this is encompassed here, as well as helping to develop and retain people by allowing opportunities for development and promoting a holistic wellness benefits package to them, as well as making sure that we have a safe and work environment and developing that culture. That's something we've made strides on this year as well. Were there any questions on that up to date? Okay. So I'll kind of sum it up with this last slide, and this is a graphic I've used before. I've updated it to incorporate the new changes, but at the very top, you'll see our mission statement. That's unchanged. Brazos River Authority exists to develop, manage, and protect the water resources of the Brazos River Basin. Layered underneath that is our vision statement. Again, our forward-looking future state. Another layer at the top is our guiding principles, the things that we believe, what makes us who we are. And then our 6 pillars, those are our strategic goals that are encompassed in this plan. And how we meet those strategic goals is our foundation, and that's the objectives and strategies, all identified in this plan that really help us, give us that clear sense and direction as we move forward. That's all I've got. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to discuss those at this time. If not, I have a resolution to read.
Seeing no questions, read the resolution.
Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority that the strategic plan, including the mission statement, vision statement, guiding principles, goals, objectives, and strategies, be approved and adopted as presented at the July 25th, 2022 meeting.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
A motion made by Director Wilson, a second made by Director Smith. Please pull the board.
Flores.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Geezy.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director Lattimore.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd.
Yes.
Director Embro.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Smith.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 9, the Board of Directors will conduct a closed meeting and executive session on the following matters. A, to deliberate regarding the position the General Manager, CEO, pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.074 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, codified by Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. If you are not specifically involved in the presentation of the first executive session agenda item, please excuse yourself from the boardroom at this time. With each executive session agenda item, time will be allowed to clear the boardroom and call the next presenters. We ask that the public please wait in the break room in order to keep the hallways clear from the executive session until the executive session is finished. reconvenes into open session at 12:41. Is there a resolution for the board to consider?
There is.
Please read the resolution.
I resolve that the Executive Compensation and Evaluation Committee recommends to the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority adoption of the following resolution. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority that the sustained exemplary performance by the General Manager CEO warrants an annual salary increase of 12% of his existing salary and justifies a one-time merit bonus of 10% of his existing salary.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Smith, a second by Director Lattimore. Please poll the board. Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Easy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crum,
Yes.
Director Leslie,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Sanderson,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
Before we adjourn, could I just say one thing? I just wanted to say to David how much of an honor it is to have you as the CEO and manager of this organization, and how appreciative we are of the job that you do, the leadership you show all the staff, the leadership you show this board. And as new folks rotate in on this board from year to year, we appreciate learning from you, and we know that the organization's in good hands whenever you're out there every day. And so we appreciate you, and we hope that the resolution that we passed today shows you how much we appreciate you.
It does. Thank you very much. I'm really blessed to be here.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Director Henderson, second by Director Lloyd. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourns 12:44 p.m.